hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you so much for joining me in reading Livingstone Mouse. The author is Pamela Duncan Edwards, and the illustrator is Henry Cole. Livingstone Mouse. Livingstone Mouse was an explorer. He spent his days running here and there, investigating this and that. One night, Livingstone's mother said to her little mice, "You've grown too big to live in my small nest. It's time for you to find places to build nests of your own." "I'd like to build my nest in the greatest place in the world," cried Livingstone. "Mother, where is that?" "Well," replied his mother, "I have heard that China is very nice." "That's it," announced Livingstone, kissing his mother goodbye. "I will go to find China." So, where exactly did Livingstone's mom suggest that he should go build his nest? After a while, Livingstone came to the biggest building he had ever seen. "It's already divided into nest places," said Livingstone. "That's incredible! This must be China." Does this look like China? Maybe from his perspective it does, but it's not China. Not yet, that's for sure. "There's lots of room," murmured Livingstone. He sat down to plan his nest. A loud clicking noise came from next door. Livingstone saw a beetle turning somersaults. There he is, turning somersaults. "Excuse me," said Livingstone, "but do you do that often?" "All the time," replied the beetle. "I'm a click beetle." Suddenly, an angry voice yelled, "Stay over on your own side!" "Stay over on your own side yourself," yelled a second voice. "I don't know why I live with you. You never stop complaining." "Excuse me," said Livingstone, "but do they do that often?" "All the time," replied the beetle. "Cockroaches are so argumentative." Argumentative meaning they kind of verbally fight, not in a very nice way sometimes. "I had no idea China would be so noisy," cried Livingstone. "China?" laughed the beetle. "This isn't China. Why don't you try that way?" All right. Livingstone scampered in the direction the beetle had pointed. He found himself in front of a tall, white shape, rising majestically into the air. Up one of its slopes ran a rope ladder. "That's fantastic," said Livingstone. "This must be China. Does this look like China yet, friends?" Like, again, maybe from his perspective, but from our perspective, not really. It's a shoe. He ran up the rope ladder and down into the dark interior. "It's nice and quiet," murmured Livingstone. He sat down to plant his nest. It's kind of like he's camping inside the shoe. A nasty, musty human smell hit Livingstone's nose. "Ugh!" he gasped. "I had no idea China would smell so bad." "China?" clickered a camel cricket. "This isn't China. Why don't you try that way?" Ugh, look, he looks a little disgusted from the smell of his shoe. So again, friends, what exactly, when he went into the shoe, what exactly happened? Livingstone ran on, gulping in air to get rid of the nasty smell. He skittered to a halt before a steep slope made out of pieces of thin woven wood. From the top of the slope, Livingstone could see peculiar objects scattered about a cloth. Peculiar means weird or different. "That's wonderful," said Livingstone. "This must be China." Oh, does this look like China? To me, this looks like a picnic basket, but from his perspective, Livingstone's perspective, I'm sure it looks a little like China. With a leap, he landed on the cloth. "It's quiet. There's no bad smell," murmured Livingstone. He sat down to plan his nest. Livingstone noticed a bottle with a big drop of red liquid dripping from its open neck. He took a big mouthful. Oh, I don't know if that was a good idea. "Yow!" he howled. "I had no idea food would be so hot in China." "China?" barked a raccoon on his way to the trash can. "This isn't China. Why don't you try that way?" Livingstone plodded off, his tongue burning. Soon he came to a square room with an open gate at the entrance. In the middle of the room, a piece of cheese lay on top of a slope. "That's neat," said Livingstone. "It's quiet, there's no bad smell, and I'm sure that's mouse food." Right here. "This must be China." He sat down to plan his nest. Livingstone's mouth began to water at the thought of the cheese. "I will eat a tiny piece," he thought. "Run!" someone squealed so loudly the cheese began to wobble. "Eek!" screeched Livingstone as the gate clanked down, trapping the end of his tail. "Dear, dear, dear," fussed the voice. "That was a silly thing to do." Two large rats heaved at the bottom of the gate. "You're lucky," said one of the rats, holding up his tail. "Look what happened to me. I had no idea living in China would hurt so much," cried Livingstone. "China?" laughed the other rat. "This isn't China. Why don't you try that way?" they said together. So when Livingstone got to the trap, what exactly did he get trapped? You could probably see it in the picture. That must have hurt, huh? Livingstone scurried across the damp grass, shuddering to think what might have happened to his tail. Eventually, he came to a tall wooden post. Sitting on top of the post was the perfect little house for a mouse. "That's amazing," said Livingstone. "I love the pointed roof and big picture windows. This must be China." "It's quiet," murmured Livingstone. "There's no bad smell, no food to sting my nose, and no mean gate to hurt me." He sat down to plan his nest. With a loud pop, light flooded the little house, blinding Livingstone. Livingstone wiped tears from his eyes. "I had no idea nights would be so bright in China," he sighed to a Luna moth. "China?" gulped the moth shyly. "This isn't China. Why don't you try that way?" So friends, what exactly happened when he got on top of the lamppost? What did it cause his eyes to do? see it in the picture. Poor Livingstone. He had a headache from too much noise. He felt sick from the bad smell. His tongue snarled, his tail throbbed, his eyes were stinging, and he still hadn't found China. Warily, he set off again. Then he saw it. It lay on its side in a shaft of moonlight, glistening blues and whites. It had a bridge with a secret passage leading out on one side. "Oh," gasped Livingstone, hardly daring to breathe. "That is the greatest." Ah. Is this China? We will see when we find out. A bat glided over Livingstone's head. "Excuse me," called Livingstone. "Could you tell me what that great place is?" "Oh, that," sniffed the bat. "You don't want to bother with that. That's just some old china." "Huh. Some old china? But I've been looking everywhere for china," said Livingstone. "This is where I want to build my nest and live happily ever after." So, after all, this is the china. So, what did the bat think Livingstone should do about the old china? It's in this page. And that's exactly what he did. Thank you, friends, for joining me again, and I hope you stay safe and healthy.